Good morning. This is retired Pastor Karl Schmidt from Calvary Lutheran Church, the Lutheran Church in Amherst, New York. We welcome you on this January 21st of 2024 to the Transfiguration service. The text that's assigned for Transfiguration is obviously the Transfiguration text from Matthew, the 17th chapter, verses 1 through 9. And after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John, his brother, and brought them up to a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them. And his face did shine as the sun, and his clothing was white as light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias, speaking with them. Then answered Peter and said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you will, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elias. While yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were very afraid. Jesus came, touched them, and said, Get up, don't be afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only. And as they came down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no one, until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead. Here ends that portion of the gospel text. Now, one of the most important parts in this is when we hear directly from the Father speaking about his Son. And really, this is the part that makes the most sense. It's kind of like a little guy who's going to be 2 soon, if you can imagine such a child, if there were such a child. And such a child seeks what? Well, donuts, yes. And such a child seeks cool shoes, yes, that light up when they walk. Yeah, that's true. And toys. Kids love toys. And to play with cousins. Yeah, that's big on the list. But what's the one thing mostly that a child of that age, a couple months before 2 years old, seeks the most? And that is love. Love from parents. Love from parents. And it's not just love, but there's more to it. And this is the part that hangs with people sometimes their whole lives, when they grow up without not just love, but approval. A lot of parents don't approve of the way their kids live. They don't approve of the way of the choices that they make. They don't approve and accept. And kids know that. From little on, kids know that. They know when they're not accepted. They know when no one approves of them. When the family calls them, oh yeah, well, that's the trouble one in the family. And we used to say little ears because they hear. And the worst part is it sinks in. And it stays there for the longest time, throughout a lifetime. And, if you look at the troubles in this world, and that's what psychiatrists and psychologists do, and they look at it more minutely, individually, and they see something. And there's just massive general agreement that if families were not as messed up as they are, and if the expectations of some parents were realistic, if they actually cared about their children as they are, as God made them, because we don't make our kids. Anyone who's had kids knows this. Mothers particularly. Dads are like, well, it's because of me we have kids. Yeah, it's because of you and 6 cans of beer, probably. But no. And if you ask someone who's been a mother, they can tell you, was it a boy or a girl? I don't know. Well, what color eyes? I don't know. What color hair was it going to have? I don't know. Because when a child's born, the mother's like, can I see it? How many fingers? How many toes? Just the basic stuff. You don't know anything about the way God is making your children. We're not in charge of that. We don't decide that. And then later, You find out what kind of personality God made for them. And parents know, if you've had more than one, that they're vastly different, each and every one. And this is the way kids are. And when we look at the Transfiguration Sunday, that's what it's about. Some of the most important words ever spoken are in this text. These words, "Utos estin ho uios mu, ho agapetos en ho oidekos, akuate autou." Those words are in Greek. Those are the words of our Heavenly Father as spoken over his Son. This is the Son, mine. This is my Son. The Son who is beloved, agapetos. He's my beloved child. But not only love, because God the Father knows that having love is one part of it, but there's plenty more. And he adds the more. Hen ho edokosa. The one in whom I am well pleased. How often can you look at your 10-year-old and go, yeah, we're well pleased. Just after she throws a hat and knocks over your Tim Hortons coffee and spills it all over the floor and into the donut box. And you look at her and go, oh, come here, give me a hug. And you say, I'm well pleased with you. Rather than exploding and being angry. Hi, Gussie. And see, that's what Transfiguration, that's what religion is about. It's about a father who not only loves his son, but finds his son oideko in the Greek. Oideko means, I approve of you. I accept you. I love you, but I also like you. And that's a big step for a lot of parents. Because at first they find millions of little things to nitpick about, and those become big things. And eventually the kids, they're brought to the point of just distraction. Getting through high school is a major accomplishment without them ending up killing themselves, and that is a major problem. It's a major problem all around the world. And you think like in Japan, you think a culture where violence is almost unheard of, and yet violence by children against themselves is epidemic in Japan. They had to put nets and fences off the roofs of all the schools in Japan just to keep the kids who jump from landing 3 stories down on concrete. Because the kids can't stand themselves. Because the expectation of the parents, the disapproval of the parents, the anger of the parents over what paperwork and grades, as if that actually matters, that they're going to bring home, or the parents are going to get a message from the school and they're going to lose it. And religion is about something else. Religion is about understanding family. And that's all it is. That's all religion is. And just like real parents who have kids don't really know much about them. It's a discovery process. Like someone who's about to turn 2, like my grandson. Everything is exciting. He finds a bell in the middle of the sermon and decides to ring it. That's a great idea for him because he's 2. Oh. And Dad just took the bell and he goes, no. And you see, because he's happy. This is about how families, kids, and growing up ought to be. And you see, in religion, oftentimes it's used as a club. It's used instead to make everyone miserable. This is one thing, personally, as a pastor, I can't stand about religion. People reduce it and turn it into a list of rules and laws, as though that's what God cares about. Martin Luther, when he never wrote a book on dogma, although he wrote 80 huge volumes, although he never put them in volumes, but he wrote a lot. But he never wrote a book of dogma. And people would ask him, why don't you write a book of doctrines? And he said, what for? I don't understand that stuff anyways. I spend my time studying what God says, not trying to categorize it into rules. But for a lot of people in religion, they turn it all into rules and then they use it to beat up everyone around them, especially the kids. And transfiguration is about something where God the Father looks at his Son and says, I love you, and I like you, and I accept you, and I acknowledge you, and I like you as you are. That's a lot. Because something else is going on. It's the same Son that he's going to ask to do an awful job. The worst job ever given by a father to a son, ever. Why? Because he's going to ask his Son to die for the world. Now, like I said, I don't understand a lot in religion, and that's the thing I understand the least. How does God the Father asking his Son to die for me fix what's wrong with me? Because whatever it is, and if you think it's his little list of sins, well, then you're out of your mind and quite ridiculous. That's not sin. I don't know what sin is. It's certainly not the little stupid list that people make. That's not sin. Because whatever it is about me, it offends the living God. And you know what? I live on this tiny little rock that from a satellite that's spun outside the edge of our solar system. You can't even see the rock. Earth is what they call the little blue dot. And then, as of now, it's not even that. It's invisible. It's gone from a satellite's camera. And yet, I hold this place on this little rock, and I live for a short time on this rock. The rocks are much, much, much older than I am. And the air is older, and the trees, there are trees that are 1,000 years old. And what am I, 65? What does that mean? And God takes notice of this lump of fat and bone. Why? Why would he give a rip? If you can tell me that, well, then you get a PhD. Because I've studied this for a long time. And I don't know. I don't know. Why not just ignore the whole thing and just say, you know what? The whole thing's gone to hell. Forget it. Forget them. They're a bunch of morons anyways. Forget them. Y'all just go to hell. I don't need you. I can start over somewhere else. So why even start over? I'm going to go skiing. in a really cool part of the galaxy. Because yours is not a cool part of the galaxy. We're sitting in a lousy little part of the galaxy. I mean, Milky Way galaxy, it's a dinner plate. That's not like the pillars of creation. It's not like the Crab Nebula. It's not a really cool place. He could go skiing down the Crab Nebula if he wanted to. That's what I would be doing, rather than playing with this ball full of idiots. So why bother? But not only does he bother, he asks his Son, whom he loves, that he actually likes, oideko, to do the cruddiest job ever. And even his Son goes, Dad, you, you know, I know you did mention this before I came here, but let's talk. So he went off to a garden, a little hill outside of Jerusalem. And he said, okay, Dad, we need to seriously talk because it's coming up what you want me to do. And I'm not fond of this idea for those idiots. They've done nothing but hit me, spit on me, yell at me, lie to me, and they don't even like me. And you want me to die for them? Why? For what possible reason? And Dad says, it's what I want. They're my kids. And Jesus is like, yeah. No. You know what? No. They're not worth it. No. So he goes back with his friends and sits down. And he comes back again to talk to his dad. Okay, Dad, this is the second time I'm going to say it. I don't want to do this. And by now he's sweating. Because the head of the Jews and the Romans are getting ready for a trial. And they're going to put him to death. Crucifixion really stinks as a way of dying. And it's not just that. It's what his Father's going to do to him. He's going to rain hell down on his Son for us idiots. Why? That's what Jesus asked. Why? I don't want to do it. They're not worth it. And his dad says, yeah, they're my kids. They're my children too. Fine. No. So Jesus goes back to his friends, sits down. Like, this night is turning out to be a really cruddy night. I hate these kind of nights. And he goes back, okay, I'm going to go ask him a third time. Because, third time's always the charm, right? It's going to work out the third time. He's going to go, yeah, I was kidding. I was pulling your leg. Good one, huh? Huh, Jesus? Huh? You like that one? So he goes back a third time and says, Dad, are we really going to do this? I have to die for these idiots? And Dad says, yeah, they're my children. And your brother, Jesus, finally said, all right, not my will, but yours. Those little bracelets that said, what would Jesus do? He would head for the coast and go play Yahtzee. Why? Because going to the cross was the last thing he wanted to do. Who designed this? His Father. Why? For you. Why? I don't have the slightest clue. Because there's nothing about me that's lovable. You can ask her. That's the woman I've been with since she was 17, I was 18. If there's anyone that knows me on this earth, it's her. Or likable. Not only agapetos, but oideko. Love, but also approve and like. Accept. Embrace. You get that from each other. Very few kids even get that from their parents, and it haunts them through life. But Jesus said, fine. That's what's going to be. That's what it's going to be. So that's what this whole transfiguration was. It wasn't about glowing Jesus. I mean, he can do that anytime he wants to. That's not a big deal for God, apparently. But what is a big deal is when the Father says, Utos estin ho uios mu. This is my son. Or in this case, my grandson. Ho agapetos. The one I love. Oidekosa. And the one I accept, I embrace, I like, I approve of. And so now, because of what Jesus did, these words apply to you from the Father, who did all this. And you know what? I don't know the math on this one. I've studied this a lifetime. 35 years active service, retired, now going on 4 years, and I still don't know how to do the math on this. But what I do know is that the Scripture says that now he accepts us. He calls us his children. Ta tekna theou, the children of God. And he loves you. And more importantly than simply love, is he likes you as he made you. And all kids are different. And that's good, because what a boring world it would be if we were all the same. Thank God we're different. I like that bit. I like our neighborhood as it's changed. We've lived in the same house for over 30 years. Yeah, over 30 years now, 33. And the neighborhood has changed. We have people from Afghanistan, we have people from Japan, Vietnam, Korea, we have people from Africa, we have people from all over the world living around us. It's exciting, it's wonderful, it's new. And you never know who's coming and going because we live near a university. And it's always different. And that's how God likes his children. Different. And so however it is he made you, That's how he likes you. Don't ever let someone tell you he doesn't like you, because that's a load of hooey. He agapetos you. He finds you that you are in his love. He's already given you everything. He's given you the whole inheritance of the kingdom of heaven. He's given you his home. But on top of it, he likes you. He accepts you. He embraces you. And it doesn't matter how you are. We're told by other Christians, oh yeah, well, if you live like this, you know what? The biggest sexual sinners are those married couples who hate each other. They're the biggest sexual sinners. I don't care what other categories you can invent in life. Biggest sexual sinners are these long-term marriages where they hate each other. That's the most wretched thing. You want sin. I might not know what it is, but I know definitely what that is. So, God loves you. He likes you. And he approves of you. Can you imagine how your life would be if you actually grew up with that at home? For a lot of kids, that would be a brand new experience. And that's what religion is. That's what it's supposed to be. Well, okay, that's enough of this. My daughter's doing this little finger in the air circling, like wrap it up. Yeah, my son-in-law doing the same thing. So anyways, hope you enjoy it. This has been Retired Pastor Karl, January 21, 2024, Transfiguration Sunday. All right.